The Raptors took a huge risk when they traded away their first-round pick to acquire Thaddeus Young at the trade deadline, a risk that many Raptors fans would say paid off. But now stuck with the 33rd pick in the upcoming draft, we're wondering if we can still land a good player. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you the 5 most exciting prospects the Raptors can still draft with that 33rd overall pick. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, we're bringing you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news all throughout the offseason, so make sure you keep it locked with the channel by subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Also, if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, make sure to drop a like. Let's try to hit 200 likes on today's video because we're breaking down 5 draft prospects for you guys. I'm not going to say that this is a preview for what's to come, but we're not going to go extremely in-depth on all these prospects. I'm basically going to lay out what the prospect does, who they are, strength, weaknesses, and then in future videos, I'm going to go in depth on each of these individual players, and we're going to decide which one would be best for the Raptors at 33rd overall. Because the Raptors, we could have been drafting in the low 20s, but they decided Thaddeus Young was worth it for the rest of the season to get at the deadline, and we wanted to get rid of that Goran Dragic contract. So we ended up taking on the Detroit Pistons pick, which ended up as the 33rd overall selection in the draft. Now, we've seen Masai Ujiri work his magic in the draft before. We've seen Masai Ujiri maybe come up a little bit short in the draft before, but hopefully this year, the Raptors, who are in desperate need of some depth, can really find a good player. And based on the players I'm about to lay out to you, I really think they can find that guy. So what we have in this video, we actually have one of each position. That was a little bit unintentional, but we have a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, a power forward, and a center. So without further ado, we're going to go from point guard down to center in that order, and we'll see which one you like the most, maybe which one I like the most at the end of it. So for starters, the point guard in question is, all of you know him, the Canadian from Gonzaga, Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard is an NBA-ready player at 22 years old, maybe a little bit higher in draft age, but he makes that up for how NBA-ready he is and how high of a floor he is, because he is an excellent passer of the ball. He is a great floor general, very good efficiency from the outside. Like, he is a very good three-point shooter. There is a lot to like about this player, and really good for a point guard. He's actually listed at about 6'4", 6'5". There are so many great things he has about this game. Willing defender, talented defender, and what's great that over the course of his college career, over the span of a few years, he has consistently gotten better and better. Things that were question marks about him, maybe the fact that he couldn't shoot, maybe the fact that he wasn't the best finisher at the rim, he continued to get better and better over the course of his college career, and I expect that to translate into the NBA. But some things about him, he's a little bit older for a player you want to get in the draft at 22 years old, and not a ton of upside for the player. This is a very low-risk maneuver. You know how talented he is, and bringing him into the team, I feel like he'll come in and be immediately better than Malachi Flynn and be the backup point guard for the Raptors, somebody we can trust in that position, somebody we are able to trust with Fred VanVleet off the floor. But again, there are limitations to his game. He's not the most athletic guy by any stretch of the imagination. And again, that upside that maybe the Raptors want to gamble on just isn't quite there for Nembhard, but it is a safe pick with the 33rd overall selection. The second guy we're looking at is Bryce McGowens, a 6'6" shooting guard coming out of Nebraska. Now, this is a player with a lot of raw potential. He moves so well in transition. Great size for a shooting guard, very athletic, got a bit of a wiry frame, just excellent at getting himself to the rim, excellent at freeing up his own shot for himself, where he does possess a very good shooting form. Going along with that shooting form, though, is efficiency that just maybe isn't quite there, but for somebody who's only 19 years old, you can really work on his game and mold this player. There was a lot of really good potential within him. Playing his season at Nebraska, not the most talented team. Maybe you can blame a little bit of that efficiency on the fact that, he had to do a lot of the things by himself. He did have to play a lot of hero ball. Now, we can maybe mistake that for some bad decision making, but a lot of the time for this team, he had to play hero ball. There was no other way he could go about playing because Nebraska just simply needed him to do that. Very good potential, very good tendencies for a shooting guard, but certainly a lot of things that need to be worked on, but great upside for a player who's only 19 years old. May go a little bit earlier than that Raptors pick, but somebody to keep an eye on. Third player, of course, is a small forward, and this might be the most exciting player I'm going to be talking about right now, and it is Josh Minott. Technically a small forward coming out of Memphis, very young, lots of upside, lots of potential. People are really looking at this guy, but very raw at the moment. He possesses so many gifted athletic traits. Like, he is a freak athlete. For his size, 6'8", he is a jump out of the gym type of guy, plays well above the rim, very long frame as well, great size and length. He's got about a 7-foot wingspan. Like, the 6'8" small forward with a 7-foot wingspan, that's got to pique the interest of Masai Ujiri 100%. He moves really well all over the court. Excellent in transition on defense, those long arms, and a little bit of a good read for the defensive game helps him get a ton of steals, but he is extremely raw. There's no doubt he has just excellent upside, but he's a very inconsistent scorer. He only averaged 6.6 points per game in his only season for Memphis. That was this season. It's going to take a lot of work to get him up to the real NBA level where we can trust him game in, game out. Not the most efficient, only took 14 threes in college and only hit 2 of them. The shooting form also does need a lot of work. The shooting form is inconsistent. Every time you see him shoot a 3, it's kind of like he's working with a bit of a different form, so that definitely needs work from the Nick Nurse school of shooting. Does turn over the ball a lot. He's unreliable on the perimeter. Not the best handles, so he can't bail himself out of situations. Not the best passer, so he can't bail himself out of those situations. But like, everybody is understanding the upside that this player has. I believe one of the weaknesses, he should really spend one more year in college fine-tuning his game, but he's decided to go into the draft at this point. I think that this is honestly a player who could be a lottery pick if he takes a little bit longer, one more year, but at the moment, with this extremely raw potential, projected to go late first, early second round, maybe even a little bit after, maybe even a little bit before, because he's such a wild card. There is so much potential within this player. Masai Ujiri, the Raptors development team, might relish the opportunity to develop this guy because he honestly is one of the highest potentials in the draft. I've seen him listed as a guard. I've seen him listed as a forward. I've also seen him listed as a small ball center. He can do it all. That fits within what the Raptors want to do. Moving down to the bigs, we have a power forward / center here in Jalen Williams. Not to be mistaken with Jalen Williams. We have Jalen Williams here with a Y. Confusing. What's not confusing is the undeniable talent that this guy has. He's a 6'10" player coming out of Arkansas, and he is the biggest thing for me. He is such a highly intelligent player. His basketball IQ is off the charts on offense and on defense. Nothing about his athleticism is going to blow you away. In fact, in the NBA Draft Combine, he was pretty low in terms of his effectiveness, in terms of his athleticism. But what he lacks in athleticism, he makes up in his smarts, because he is just such a gifted basketball player. On the offensive end, he works so well within the way the team wants to play offense, whether that's as a ball handler, like a 6'10" guy who can handle the ball, whether that's as a passer where he's an excellent playmaker, and also good shooting form. Like, he's just so fundamentally sound. He's got the good shooting form, maybe not the most efficient in college from 3, but he projects to shoot very well from 3 in the NBA, especially for a player of his size. Finishes decently well at the rim, and the defensive end is something that is another strong suit for him. Again, the athleticism is not going to bail him out of these defensive situations, but he doesn't need bailing out. He's in the right positions. He is very good in drop coverage, shadowing his guards to make sure that their check isn't going to get off a clean look, a clean mid-range jumper, and also can meet that player at the rim, and is one of the best players I've seen in a long time coming out of college at drawing charges. If you missed the Raptors drawing charges since Kyle Lowry left, this guy is absolutely going to fill that void. Along with all of this, he's a great rebounder, especially on the offensive end, and like I said, going on to the shooting form, his free throw percentage, which is well above 70%, has the potential to get to 80 in the NBA, and that translates well to possibly getting that mid-range game and even that 3-point game with, again, the Nick Nurse school of shooting. The weaknesses of his game, not a very high ceiling, just for the fact that he's not the most athletic player. He makes up for a lot of that in smarts. Reminds me a lot of the Gasol brothers. I wouldn't necessarily say, maybe not quite a player comparison, maybe not quite to that level, but like the way those guys play, they're not the most gifted athletes, but they're just so smart at what they do that they don't need to be, the guy averaging tons of points here. They're helping their team win. He is there to drive the success of his team. And for a Raptors team with already so many gifted offensive players, that could make sense. About to turn 20 years old, there's definitely some potential within this player. I am a very big fan of what I see in Jalen Williams. Last guy we're going to take a look at, and if you come to my Twitch live streams, you know I am a fan of Christian Caboclo, a 7-foot center coming out of Arizona. He's about to turn 22 years old, so not the best in terms of draft age, but there are some great things about this player that may interest the Toronto Raptors. He seems decently NBA ready with his skill set. He's a rim running type of center, so he's great on the defensive end, gets some block shots. His athleticism for a 7-footer is great, and also mixed with that, his timing for those block shots is also excellent. On the offensive end, he works well when he's post up, great footwork. He played soccer for a lot of his life growing up in Cameroon, and you can see that on the basketball court. His post moves are very good. Can kind of bail himself out sometimes with a mid-range jumper. That's decent. Not a lot going for him in terms of the outside game, but he's a very interior-oriented big, and there's a lot of talent there, a lot of athleticism for a guy who is that big. Maybe a little bit of switchability. I've seen him able to defend guard sometimes out on the perimeter. He's comfortable going out to the perimeter and playing defense out there. Something that would tailor to the Raptors, but there are weaknesses to his game as well, and one of those things being his size. Like, even though he's tall, not the biggest frame, not the most NBA ready frame, that maybe could use a little bit of work. Wonder what sort of effectiveness he would have against a true big on an opposition team. His draft age, again, is getting up there. He's almost 22 years old, and when he's on the outside on offense, he really doesn't have the handles. He really does not have the playmaking on the outside. He is a strict interior big, though lots of talent, and I think that's something the Raptors could use on their team. Would the draft pick at 33rd overall? I don't know if the Raptors want to find a guy who doesn't have such a high ceiling like many of the other players I described, but nonetheless, a very talented player here in Christian Caboclo. So there you have it, the 5 most exciting prospects I think the Raptors can still get with a 33rd overall pick. It's always very difficult to predict where players are going to go in the second round, so they could go higher than the 33rd pick, they could go well below the 33rd pick, but I really like what I see from all 5 of these guys. I'm going to go in depth on each of these players in future videos on the channel, so make sure you are subscribed so you're able to see all of those, plus so much other Raptors content. On top of draft discussion, we do trade talk, we analyze the players in the current team, and so much more. If you do not want to miss it, you can hit the notification bell as well, so you're always up to date. And be sure to like this video if you did enjoy. If you are here at the end of the video, it clearly means you enjoyed, and when you drop a like, it helps YouTube find other people who might want to see this video as well, so you're going a long way to help me. It only takes you a second to like the video. That's it from me for today. We'll see you again next time for another video.